Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad to hear this morning. Got a great show lined up. But first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. It's going to be a high today of 88, low of 77. Water temperature has dropped down 1 more degree down to 87 degrees, but it's still warm out there. Take a look at our river readings brought to us by Sandhill Seafood up on Highway 77, just north there of Bozeman School. Good fresh seafood. The Apalachicola continues a slow and steady drop. Now it's not getting a lot of movement because it's slow and steady. It's down to 3 foot even this morning, and probably tomorrow it's going to drop below 3 foot. The Choctaw at Caryville reading a 3.7. It's doing the same thing, and it may pick up a little bit, start getting a little bit more rain, but it's going to be low. Both rivers are going to be low this weekend if you're planning any river trip. Tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery right here on 23rd Street. Tide's looking pretty good. Well, today is actually the August the 30th, folks. Can y'all believe it's almost Labor Day? Friday's going to be Labor Day, and it's good strong tides today, especially tomorrow. Going to be some strong tides. We're looking at a high tide at 350 this morning and a low at 327. So it's outgoing all morning, even after lunch it's outgoing. So it's got a good outgoing flow. Our marine forecast, south-southeast at about 12. So it'll be kicking up today if you're going offshore, so be aware of that. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with our special guest. Welcome back, folks, and look who is here this morning. Matt
Morning, Coach.
Smith.
How are you?
Buddy, it's so good to see you again.
It's great to be here. It's been a while.
I tell you, like I said, I had lunch with Mandy Miller last week, who graduated with you.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking. I said, "Have you seen Matt lately?" I got thinking, I hear from, here and all. I said, I ain't seen him in a long time.
We're catching up, and sound like you've been as busy or busier than I have. So I know you're not in one place.
I left lunch, and that's when I called. I said, "Matt, can you come on the show?" I said, "We got to just take time, and folks, we got to do this. You got to take time and just get up with your old buddies."
You do.
All.
You absolutely do, and really perfect timing. I know. Not on weekly anymore, daily, but as far as a time to come on the transition this time of year and kind of wrapping up summer here, I think everybody's glad to see that coming together and looking forward to fall. A lot of optimism always going into this time of year.
I know. We're going to get that in a minute, but let's go back to where we first got started. And Matt and I goes all the way back to he was about a 9th grader at Mosley, and he's in the gym there, and we started talking about fishing somehow, and we've been close since then.
We've been real close, and I remember getting your attention one of the very first days outdoor ed, and one of your questions, you kind of give us a quiz to take home for the weekend, and you want to know all the details about world record bass. So go home, do your research, and come back and let me know the answers on Monday. Well, I had all the answers right there.
Yeah.
George Perry, 1932, Lake Montgomery, 22 pounds, 4 ounces. I knew all the details, and we just right away had that bond of information, the love for the fishing, the history, all that stuff.
And that was impressive because he knew all that, at that age. Now, if I was teaching that class now, here's what would happen. Boom, 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 here it is. And it's amazing.
It is amazing, and really the cool thing about it, being in the information age, is there's so much information, maybe too much, but if you love it and try to keep up with everything, it's a huge benefit.
I was thinking, too, driving into work this morning, I believe, and Jeff might help me out on this, I believe Matt might have been, when I started doing the show, when I was doing it by myself, I think you were my very first guest I had on, I think.
I think so.
And then he became almost a regular. He'd come on all the time. He'd come on once a month and all.
That's right. Well, we were doing the Monday. We were doing every Monday. We did that weekly for about 3.5 years.
We did it for a while. And that was Mondays with Matt, I think I called it. When we talked about a lot of fishing, we have a lot of new viewers now, so I want to bring that up. And
we hit the rewind button. We're good at that. Kind of rewind a little bit and keeping up with bass fishing.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, if I had more time, I'd like to be able to still keep up with.
Well, that's what
that.
And that's what I was going to mention. We did bass fishing first. We did a lot of bass fishing.
That's right.
And for y'all that know it, Matt started off as a bass fisherman.
That was it.
And you and Bobby Smith.
That's Bobby Smith, and going back, I grew up fishing on the bay, and but as I got into my teenage years, I could drive, and then going into my 20s, just something about I fished my whole life, but the competitive aspect, and that gets you. And I know that's with sports in general, but that got my attention, and I wouldn't trade that experience. Kind of difficult decision to put that on the shelf and go into the guide business, but that was a lifelong dream too. Yep. And it was a good decision, but still use that foundation of tournament fishing. There's a lot of aspects of that. Anytime you push yourself to be competitive, you're going to push yourself to a level that you wouldn't otherwise. And I still to this day use things. Learned a lot.
And you learn from a master too, working with Bobby.
Absolutely.
And he, he's still kicking around a lot, still fishing a lot.
He took my money for a long time, and finally got to join up with him, and I did. I learned a whole lot, and one of the things with fishing, and need to catch up with Bobby, never stop learning. You just never stop. The day you, with anything, but especially fishing, the day you stop learning is the day you stop becoming a better fisherman.
I believe that. Something. And now, like I say, you went ahead and graduated from high school and went on, and then you got your guide license how many years ago?
Going on 10, right, over 10 years
goodness.
ago.
That's hard.
It doesn't seem like it was issued in November of 2006.
And you have a unique situation. You also work another job.
I do. I work every day, and I enjoy what I do. Yeah. Which is the key, and I'm blessed. I really am.
And this is one of the reasons we haven't seen this much. He's working 2 jobs, and he's hitting hard
all the time, every day. Yeah. A lot of days, leave home before dark and get home after dark, but I'm going to do it while I can. That's what I like to say.
You got plenty of energy and young and all, and we're going to get into fishing and boating and get some tips from Matt later on in the show, but I just want to get his foundation established, especially with a lot of new viewers that's moved in, and that's what's amazed me about the show over the years, the new viewers, new folks coming in.
That's what keeps it interesting.
Yeah, and it's been, and plus all the loyal ones we have from day one.
Absolutely.
So a lot of them are going to recognize you. That's old Matt Smith.
It's amazing, and I've said this for years. I've been as far, Walton County and west of Walton County all the way over, in Weewaw and Howard Creek, places way north of here, and run into somebody at a gas station and say, I know you, and get to talking, and it's a tight-knit community, still a tight-knit community and group of people, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Not me either. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Matt. All right, welcome back. Matt and I, we just got we don't have enough time. We need a 2-hour show today.
We could do a 2-hour show pretty easily.
We really could. Let's move on. So we got a background how Matt and I got hooked up years ago. We've been in touch, and we fished together. He's done the show with us, and it's just always been one of my favorites. And now you're fishing a lot. So let's get into fishing. You're a bona fide guide.
A bona fide guide, and it's funny. The irony of it is making the transition, say, from tournament fishing to guiding is 2 totally different worlds. But one of the things that just totally dictates your life as a guide are the conditions. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I'll run into people and they want to talk about a product or this or that and the other. And as a guide, I kid people on the boat all the time. I said, what dictates how well you sleep as a guide for us in the summer is bait. So my life comes down to a 2 to 3 inch bait fish. If I can catch that bait and that pretty much dictates my whole day, my whole week, and potentially a whole summer. And people laugh about that, but it's true. Funny, but the weather. I mean, you take for instance this summer we've had, and the rain and all the weather, tremendous amount of fresh water. And then how that affects the entire fishery.
Let's talk about that because this summer has been a very rainy summer.
It has, and with that being said, really fortunate. Had some cancellations, but nothing like what was it the summer of 2013 when we got flooded out basically the entire month of July. Every day you woke up and you went to bed with it raining and lost basically a whole month there. But with that being said, all of that rain and we're looking ahead, and you get busy, you get booked up, and you're just having to adjust. Every day is about going out and saying, okay, this is what it should be, and this is what we have to work with, and you learn how to work. That's the real challenge and the real skill of guiding, is being able to constantly make those adjustments and make it work. And fortunately this year, things, I guess because the weather was consistent as far as having rain, having fresh water, things kind of stabilized, and we've had a pretty good summer.
Well, we're talking about bait fish, and like I say, that's critical to y'all. And the bait fish, they're not going to disappear, but they're going to move.
They're going to move, right? That's right. They're only going to tolerate so much fresh water, and our entire bay system has fresh water coming into it. But when you put a bunch in a short amount of time, you're exactly right. They're going to move, and so what it does is it takes from having, say, a half a dozen options of areas to catch bait down to one, and you got an entire guide fleet, everybody on that same resource, on that same spot. That's only going to last so long, and so then you have to really constantly be thinking outside of the box. Okay, what can I do? I know this is going to end. Where am I going to go? A plan, a B, a C. What am I going to do? And that's where, with our crew, having good partners to communicate with makes all the difference.
Yeah, and that's true. Speaking of bait fishing, to give an example too, out of the last 3 weeks, I fished 2 king mackerel tournaments, and our number 1 bait, of course, is the blue runner.
Absolutely.
And then in Carabel, the fresh water pushed them away, and we could not find any blue runners.
I would imagine.
And in Mexico Beach, there was only a handful of blue people could find.
And they were worth their weight in gold, I'm sure.
Well, I'd have paid $20 a piece probably for them.
That's
so
it.
was, I mean, you just couldn't find any.
That's it.
But it doesn't take one blue runner to catch a $5,000 fish.
That's right.
That's not a bad investment.
No, and you take people from all over the country and they say, well, bait's bait. You just put something on a hook and say, oh no, it's not. Being able to have certain baits to be able to have enough to say chum, make fish bite, even make them get excited, make them start feeding when they're not necessarily.
What are some of y'all's top fresh bait?
Well, during the summer, we mostly focus on pogies. Menhaden, what most people call menhaden, we call pogies, but then also whitebait or pilchards. And the pilchards, the key with the pilchards, they're migratory. And so they come down the beach, they come from South Florida out in the open Gulf, and as they're migrating up here, if we get a bunch of rain, we get a bunch of fresh water, they hit that fresh water and they just don't come into the bay.
Bounce off of it.
They bounce into the bay, or they come in here, they get kind of established early summer, and then we get a bunch of rain and they push them out and they're gone. And then we normally get a second run this time of year. But if you have unusual conditions like we've had this year, then you don't really know what to expect.
You brought up a good point too. We're talking about migratory, how the kings and then cobia and all, how they migrate, but so do some of the bait fish.
The bait, absolutely. And that a lot of those, your big predator fish, the migrations of your predator fish are all based around that bait.
They're following it.
That's it. And one of the things, and I think one of the things you and I share in our interest is the science. That's the science behind it, understanding the biology and understanding those bait fish migrations, the fish movement pattern, and that's when you spend a lot of time and you study it and you get a lot of experience on the water, you start to put things together, and to me, that's what keeps it interesting.
Oh, and it's been fascinating too. Now, you go early in the morning.
Early in the morning.
We talked about that. And for various reasons, of course, the fish are active then, plus it's a lot cooler.
It's a lot cooler during the summer, boat traffic. I like to be finishing up about the time everybody is getting out and getting started, and usually in the summer in the bay, you're going to have major morning by around 9:30.
Right.
By 10 o'clock, you pretty much have made your morning and coming in, and it just makes all the difference in the world. And people say, "Well, we're on vacation." I say, "I understand, but what's our plan here as far as?"
I guess that's hard to convince people coming in who not used to that.
It is, but they trust your judgment, and sometimes we're a little flexible on that with kids and whatnot. And you can still catch a fish after 9 or 10 o'clock. It's just a lot more enjoyable, and things usually go a little better. And bait's bait first thing in the morning is much easier to catch.
It's like that. My favorite fishing partner, Gail. By 9 o'clock in the morning, she's had enough of it, and so it works out perfect for us.
That's it. Well, and also too, there's that magic window of getting out, and usually if you get an early start, you've had a full morning, no need to stay out. And
we're going to. What's been amazing, I know you've seen it just in the past 10 years, has been the growth of the number of people.
Absolutely, and we know that's going to increase.
Yeah, it is. And we're gonna take a break. But we'll come back and talk about some do's and don'ts and when you're fishing and different things like that. So let's take a break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So here with Matt Smith, Captain Matt Smith. But first, let's look at our fishing game times today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers in Port St. Joe. We're looking at 7:26 to 9:26 this morning and 7:50 to 9:50 this evening. And I always ask all my guests, we do have fishing times. You believe in fishing?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And
Enough said.
Joe, anytime you can, but if you can coordinate and time and work around those, it's only going to be to your advantage.
Very good. Now, we talked on yesterday's show, I talked about we were out there fishing, somebody came up and punched in our numbers and adequate, and you just tell us about it.
Well, it's just, it's an ongoing, and it ties into what you're referring to with our population growth. And with the population growth, you have more and more people wanting to get into the sport, which is good. We promote that. We want people to be involved in the outdoors, understand it, teach young people, and let's preserve and promote our what we love. But with that being said, as you get somebody out there that's not familiar with just the common code of conduct and consideration, it's not that complicated. If you spend any time out there, the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. Doesn't matter if you're in the Gulf of Mexico fishing on a bottom spot or you're out drifting in West Bay fishing a flat. You don't want somebody pulling up next to you. You don't want somebody cutting you off. I use an example all the time. I tell people, because it happens on the water with me, and the last thing I'm going to do is lose my cool with clients on the boat. Try not to lose my cool at all, but it's sometimes hard not to do. You get in a situation with someone like that, be the bigger person, turn and go the other way. And I have used it as an opportunity to try another area, try another spot, and you'd be surprised the amount of times that actually turns out to your benefit.
Because you did something good.
Well, that's right. Well, I have my mindset on fishing this spot. You get there, there's somebody there, or you pull up, you're fishing it, and somebody kind of comes in and gets too close. Move on. Try something different. Try the place in the back of your mind you probably weren't going to get a chance to fish anyway. Things all of a sudden come together, and you might even learn something.
Yeah.
Try something different. Come back later. It's just not worth it. But with that being said, I usually give people two opportunities on the water, and I assume one of two things: either one, they don't know, or they don't care.
Yeah.
If they don't know, I try to inform them in the right way. If they don't care, we'll have a brief discussion about the way that should be handled and move on. And a lot of times I try to assume people just don't know. I hope that's the case.
I was telling Matt this story even before I finished. Matt started doing like this, and he knew that they were punching in the number.
Oh, yeah.
And that's So and those people like that don't care.
That's right.
And that's that's what I say. That's a low life of outdoorsmen. So we have a few of them.
They're out
there, and you see it. But we just have to get past that and just keep on.
In the guide community, lead by example. That's the word we live by, and try to set the example.
And I've always used that football field length because everybody talks about it and talk about it and scalloping and red fishing or whatever.
That's right.
Just stay away from them. Okay, enough said about that. Now let's go on. We're finishing up summer, wrapping up. We were out on the verge of fall fishing, so let's talk about some fall fishing tips.
It is by far, and I get questions. We fish 12 months of the year. Most of us do, and if there's one time a year I look forward to, it's what we're coming into. It's the fall, and even what'll fool you, coming in here into September. Even though it's still warm, the water's cooling down. The days are getting shorter, the water's starting to cool down, and everything reacts to that. The bait, the fish, and it's kind of easy to kind of put off getting out in the heat and fishing. But if you love to fish, now's the time to be getting your stuff ready and get out on the water and just activity, just the standard practice of going out and looking for activity, moving and fishing, and your fish become more active longer periods throughout the day. Shallow water comes back to life. Not that you can't catch fish shallow during the summer, but the fish spend real limited time up there. We're coming in the time of year where you're going to have activity all day.
Good point.
And one thing to consider with all the fresh water we've had, especially up in the bay and the water being stained and coffee colored and tea colored in a lot of areas, use something that makes a little commotion, maybe some brighter colors than you'd normally use.
Okay.
And just cover water. A lot of people love to fish with a popping cork, gulp shrimp underneath. That ought to be just deadly this fall. Normally our water is very clear, and a lot of times I feel like that that can kind of detract a little bit. This year will be an exception. If you love to fish with a popping cork, it ought to be a banner year.
And you let your clients sometimes they just sort of leave it up to you, then sometimes they have a special way they want to do.
That's it, and that's why we talk with them on the phone, kind of get their expectations, and most of the time they put their trust in us and say, hey, you're out here all the time. What's our best opportunity for success? And a lot of times that comes down to their expectations and ability.
You mainly target, most years are targeting redfish for the most part?
Where I get probably the most popular fish would be to target a redfish.
Yeah.
A lot of course, fish for trout, flounder, mangrove snapper, Spanish mackerel. That's one thing this time of year we call them axe handle Spanish.
Yeah.
Those Spanish that have been in the bay all summer, long spring and summer, and they're feeding up. It's not uncommon to catch 5 to 7 pound Spanish mackerel on 10-pound tests on a trout. Something you'd catch a trout with. It's fun.
Yeah, and I know I've seen you out there before. Some guys like just come fly fish.
That's right, fly fish.
That's fun.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah. Chum those fish up, and usually you get some bluefish and whatnot in the mix. And
so you're Panama City Inshore. They can go online and find you.
And check us out.
You got some folks out of town or some relatives that want to come down and fish or something, I'd highly recommend Matt Smith, okay? Now, what we were talking earlier, we got about a minute or two left. When we first started doing the show, you brought this up, how, and I mentioned before how technology has changed. When I want pictures now, I go to this iPad. Tell us about early days.
In the early days, I would literally, on usually Sunday evening, would print out the results from bass tournaments. Alan Courtney around the tournament trail, he on his website. I'd print them out, I'd cut them out, post them on a white sheet of paper, and we had a stand over there, and we'd put those up, and then I'd read the stands, and we'd talk about it. Then you fast forward to today.
Technology, yeah. That's,
one to be perfectly honest, there were times that we did run a little short on information, having things to show. Now, like you said, we don't have enough time.
And technology in the fishing, real quick. I mean, you're
amazing. Your electronics, touch screen, the sophistication of the electronics, the tackle,
and the trolling motors are taking the anchor.
Amazing. But one thing I always tell people, that none of that will ever take place of experience. That will help you, but by all means, you use every opportunity you can to get on the water and then just learn.
A power pole.
Power pole.
It's amazing.
Phenomenal.
How did you ever do with a power pole?
No, I wouldn't.
I got one recently. I said, "Where in the world? What about?"
Hey, whether you're stopping to take a phone call or eat a sandwich, or stop on a giant school of redfish, it's just a wonderful piece of equipment if you fish shallow water.
Well, we're about to run out of time again.
Coach, always a pleasure.
Great having you back.
I'm glad to be here.
We can't wait that long next time.
We'll do it again soon.
All right, folks, thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. Do something good today for your fellow man. Have a great day in the outdoors, and God bless.
God bless you.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.